Life speaks. It speaks through struggles and success, through music and messages, the preconceived and the unexpected. Whether you are in the depths of the valley or in the midst of your mountaintop experience, everyone needs to be encouraged from time to time. Here we will share stories of strength, testimonies of triumph, verses of victory, observations, and information meant to touch the heart and uplift the soul, to keep you on your path of purpose and navigate this thing called life with power and authority. This is Andrea L. Hines, and I'm your host for When Life Speaks, here on ALH Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network. I am glad you accepted the invitation to join us tonight. There's something in this broadcast just for you, and if it is going to be a blessing to your life, it will be to someone else as well. So share, tag, start a watch party, and invite someone you know to join us. Then turn down the volume of life and get ready to receive, so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to When Life Speaks. We are glad to have you coming in with us tonight. I've got Ida Batts already in this evening. Hello, Miss Ida. How are you? Glad that you're doing well. I know you are. And we've got Francina Booker with us tonight. She's our special co-host that comes on from time to time. Hey there, Francina. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you? Thank you for inviting me to be your co-host.
I'm doing well. For those of you who don't know, Francina comes on from time to time, and we do a little something called Senior Sidebar because there are so many things that really just apply to our senior population. But we also get into a place of saying, if I had known then what I know now, because we find that there's so many things that we think are for the senior population, but really, if we had known these things when we were younger, when we were in our 20s, when we were in our 30s, we would have gotten a better start on some things, and we really wouldn't necessarily find ourselves in the state or the shape that we are right now. The village has been gracious enough to give us some topics that they wanted us to talk about, and we were able to do one last week. We had a guest on with us, Teresa Carmi, and Teresa told us about some financial things that we needed to know, and it was really a great show. And Teresa is the one that introduced us to our guest for tonight. Hey there, Bernice. How are you doing? Glad to have you on the line tonight. One of the things that we had been talking about, Francine and I had just chatting, and we were talking about wills and the importance of having a will. And I guess, Francine, it probably came out of the fact that so many people were dying and dying suddenly, and the outbreak of COVID and things like that were happening. And not only that, sometimes we look at things that how do I want to put it? Uh, we had a segment where we were talking about, GoFundMe. That's what I'm trying to think of, and sometimes people are reaching out through GoFundMe accounts. And a lot of times it's because insurance has lapsed and things have happened. It's not that people are not being diligent about their finances, but sometimes they just get caught. So as we were talking about uh, wills and things of that nature. I said, well, Francina, we don't know anything about that. we, we need to get some help. So I was thankful that Francina was able to get in touch with Teresa, and Teresa led us to Aaron. Your mic's off, Francina. I need you to unmute. There you go. Now, because I want to be able to hear you. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, okay.
And
All right.
hello, everybody. Hello.
There you go.
Okay. So Ms. Erin Edgar is licensed to practice law by the North Carolina State Bar. She is a member of the North Carolina Bar Association, Business Networking International, Toastmasters International, and a number of other professional networking groups and organizations. She spreads her message by speaking to networking groups and service organizations about how estate planning, with the guidance of an attorney, can help people attain peace of mind about the future and improve their lives. She enjoys performing and writing music, spreading the art of mindfulness and meditation to bring calmness and clarity to life's chaos and bird watching.
All right. Aaron worked as a law clerk and attorney for Legal Aid of North Carolina for 11 years before she started her own law firm. The law office of Aaron Baker Edgar was started in 2021. She loves helping busy families organize their lives, protect and enrich the lives of their children, and provide for and protect themselves for end of life through the service of estate planning, giving them peace of mind for the future. There is one other interesting thing about Erin. She also has a story of strength and a testimony of triumph, which you know is something that we do a lot here at When Life Speaks. But Erin just happens to be blind. She was born without sight, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about that right after the break and right before we begin our discussion on some of the do's and don'ts and ins and outs of estate planning. So, look, I want you to share this with somebody, get somebody else on the line, because I tell you, Erin is a wealth of information. She's got great knowledge in this area, and we want to be sure that we tap into whatever questions you might have. I know I already have some that we're going to address tonight, but let's share this broadcast and see what Erin is going to tell us that's going to help us out. So we're going to take a little break right here. Hang in there. We will be right back. There we are. There we are. Welcome, Erin. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have you with us. Can you
Thank
hear us
you.
okay?
I
Okay.
sure can.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, you guys know what to do. Send up some hearts if you're at a place where you can, to help us to welcome our guest tonight. So glad to have you, Erin. I tell you, you have an exciting story. You have a very, very amazing story, and I think that when you and I were talking, I said, man, there are challenges enough without any additional challenges when I think of anybody going through law school and getting a degree and starting their own business and those kinds of things. So, before we get into the meat and the heart of our discussion tonight about estate planning, let, I'm going to turn it over to you and just tell us a little bit about you personally and about your decision to go into practice for yourself.
Certainly. Well, I, as you said, was born without sight, and I had the benefit of some very loving parents who may or may not be watching. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad, if you are. And when I went to school, I had everything that I needed and the accommodations I needed. They made sure of that. And when I went to college and law school, I kept that practice going. I asked for what I needed and knew that that was something I would need to do all of my life. And it's not always easy. It sometimes is a challenge. Um, Sometimes knowing what I need before I go into a situation is a challenge. And there come times when there are things I need that I didn't know about. But we work with that. We all roll with the punches and have our challenges. And that is what happened when I went into business for myself. As you said, I worked with Legal Aid of North Carolina as an attorney. And I also did a fair amount of conflict resolution work on a volunteer basis, mediating cases in district criminal court. And those two experiences taught me two things. Number one, the legal system is not cut and dry. And number two, it's a really good idea to prevent conflict before it even starts. And this influenced my desire to go into practice for myself. I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I was going to move on from where I was. And I had an experience with a family situation. And the situation involved a death in my family. And the estate plan was not updated. It had not been updated for, like 20 years. And that caused some stress to my family. And I decided that, number one, I knew I was going into practice for myself. And number two, I didn't want anyone else to go through that stress that my family had gone through because of a lack of updating an estate plan or even not having a plan. Some people don't. And I knew that was something I didn't want people to have to do. And so I have two missions. Number one, to make the process of estate planning as easy as possible and even, dare I say, exciting for people planning for your life. I like to turn it around. It's not about planning for death. It's about planning for life. And number two, not only making it easy, but making it having people create their estate plan and knowing that it's a journey. It's not set in stone. This is not just one-off transaction, and that they can come back to me when they have a change in their life that requires changing their plan. So I make it very clear that this is not a one-stop shop. We will be working together for, years, maybe even a lifetime, depending on, our respective ages. But that is how I came to this work, and how I help others to see that it is not about planning for your death, which is going to happen at some point in the future, but it's about knowing where you are to take measures to plan for your life, so that when something happens to you, death or illness, you're prepared and you've got people at your back. You know who your support network is.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Aaron, as you were talking and you were explaining a little bit about, um, estate planning, I want you to go just a little bit deeper because I don't think that most of us have a clear perception or clear understanding of just what estate planning is and what it entails, especially when you frame it from the standpoint of planning for your life, not planning for your death. So kind of help us out with that.
So estate planning, it sounds really rich, right? Like
Yes,
you're living in a mansion and living the good life.
that's right.
And I would submit that we're all to some extent living the good life. We all have our own sources of wealth, and estate planning in of itself is taking stock of your life, figuring out what you have in terms of property, who you have that supports you, and creating legal documents to make decisions about who you want to inherit from you and who you want to support you when you're not able to support yourself. Basically, it's about finding out and realizing who you love and putting that all down on paper.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
And we may be familiar with the names of the documents. They're wills, of course, your will, last will and testament. We all have heard about that. And we've all heard of documents called advanced directives or powers of attorney, as they call them in the state where I live, for healthcare and finance, for people to support you if you're still alive but can't decide things for yourself.
Mhm. So it's best to have both of those things.
It's best to have both of those things because they don't do the same thing. They both act in different areas. So we've
Okay.
all heard of, many of us with a psychology background may have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So, we have food and shelter and survival needs, and then we have love needs, and then we have um, physical needs. I don't know them all, but in the law, basically, it's kind of the same. It's kind of its own hierarchy. One type of document does one thing. So, a healthcare power of attorney only allows someone to make healthcare treatment decisions for you if you cannot. Doctors say, you can't.
Gotcha. Okay.
Durable, we call them durable powers of attorney or general powers of attorney, to care for your property and finances, allows someone to do that for you if someone says you can't.
Mhm.
Um, your last will and testament, think about the word will. I wish, basically, is what it means. It basically sets out your wishes and intentions regarding your material goods that you leave behind or your money
Mhm.
upon your death.
Mhm. Mhm. Francina, do you want? We had some things down at the bottom of the sheet. You want to delve into one of those? Uh,
Yes.
mhm.
Okay. So I'm going to ask this: what things are covered under estate planning other than wills?
Ah, well, as I said, and thank you for the question because it's a good one. And estate planning can cover so much more than just, shouldn't say just a will because a will is very important, but so many more things. Like I said, who will make treatment decisions for you for your health care? Who will make financial decisions if you cannot? Also, how you want I shouldn't say your remains, your body treated at the end of your life. In other words, do you want to be placed on life support? If doctors say you can't live, you're not going to recover, do you want that life sustaining treatment? Um, there are some documents for that. There are documents about, or in your healthcare documents, you can specify, in many states, you can specify whether you want to be an organ donor, whether you want to, uh, in your will, or if you create some certain type of a trust, you can specify, do you want to give to charity, and what charities are important to you. Um, there are also ways in which you can designate guardians for your children. This is a very powerful provision, and in some cases, guardianship documents can be created if you need them. But this is basically if something were to happen to you and your child's other parent, who would you want to care for your children? This is so important because in most states, the legal system will not let children go uncared for. It doesn't. It's not going to happen under the age of 18. So they will give. If they find children just kind of alone, they'll turn them over to social services if there's no one caring for them.
Mm.
And so parents designating someone to care for their children in a legal document, godparents, that doesn't cut it. It needs to be legalized or formalized in some way according to state law, whatever state you live in. And that is a very important thing for parents to do for their kids, especially if they've got minor children. And in some cases, if you've got children or adult loved ones who have special needs, in other words, they're unable to work, they're unable to engage in gainful employment as defined by the federal government because of some kind of physical or mental disability, or as they used to call it, handicap, then there are documents that can be created to plan for their future when you're not around to provide for them. How are they going to be provided for so they're not living in poverty?
You said something to me the other day too, Erin. We were talking, and you were talking about wealth, and that it's measured differently. You know, wealth isn't always just money and things that we think about that way. Explore that for us a little bit.
Absolutely. So when we are talking about wealth in terms of the legal system here in the US, mostly we're talking about your material goods because that's how, as a society, we measure wealth and success. That is one of the fundamental metrics, is how much money you have, what property you have. And whether we like it or not, that's the way it is. However, I like to tell people, when you're creating your estate plan, you can use that wealth in whatever way you want and distribute it according to your values. So basically, showing people who you love the way they're going to remember you, one of the chief ways is the material asset that you leave them is one of the ways. And that's the way our legal system plans best for it. There are other things that we can do that are not specifically related to a legal document to help people pass on different kinds of wealth. So, and if you talk to some estate planning attorneys, will talk about an a life review or an end of life review. If you talk to an end of life doula, they will also tell you about end of life review things that you can do. Basically, what some attorneys do, what I do or can if my clients decide they want it, is to sit down with you and talk with you about your memories and your wisdom in a coherent fashion and create a video or audio interview that talks about your memories and wisdom that you would like to pass along to those that you love. It's not a legal document. It's not something you could take in front of the clerk of court or the clerk of probate, but it really is another metric of wealth that you can create to measure what you have learned in this lifetime to pass on your experience to your loved ones so that, I don't know, you can look at it whatever way you want. They don't repeat your mistakes. They gain your wisdom. They give you, you give them the benefit of your knowledge and memories to grow themselves, however you want to look at it. That is another type of wealth, your intellectual, spiritual, and wisdom gifts, if you will, that you've collected over the years that you can pass on. And thanks to our digital age, we have so many wonderful ways to commemorate that.
I never thought about that, and I never thought about it that way. Welcome to you, Lynn, and welcome to you, Marie. And so I'm glad to have you all on the line. Did you ever think about that, Francine? And you know anything
No,
about that?
no, and that is awesome. I like that, but I want to ask a question because I have a will, and in my will, besides not having power of attorney or advance directives, I have everything in my will of how I want everything distributed, as well as my house, um, my finances, my little stuff that I have in here. You know, I have it and I have it spelled out who gets what, how much. So Do I still need an estate planning, even
That
though I have
is
money
estate
in my
planning.
will?
You
But I
got
mean,
it.
it's in my will. That's what I'm saying. It's in my will. So would it
Mhm.
still be okay? Will it hold up?
Well, an estate plan consists of several different types of documents. So, will is a really, I mean, that's the estate planning that is going to be used on your death to determine who gets what. So
Okay.
you're already on a good start.
Okay.
Um, that's the mask to your oxygen mask for death, if you will, is your will. What protects you during your life are those healthcare powers of attorney, the financial power of attorney, those other documents that people don't often think of, but they are part of an estate. They can be part of your estate plan. And your estate plan is what you make it. You make your will, your attorney may suggest other things. You may not need everything that could be possibly put into an estate plan. There are any number of things, some of which, we're not talking about here, that could be put into it. And it all depends on what you need. And if you have a good attorney advising you, they will tell you what you need, and help you design a plan that fits you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Aaron, how soon, at what point should someone be thinking about uh, uh, getting an attorney and really starting a journey with estate planning?
I love the way you say journey. I would submit that when you turn 18 and you're able to manage your financial and healthcare affairs yourself, you should begin the process of starting.
Oh, wow.
And I actually have a couple of clients now who are young adults and mostly on their parents' persuasion. They have come to me and they have said, I want to create power of attorney so that my parents can help me with my finances and my healthcare decisions because they realize it's all on them now. These things are their responsibility. And, they realize it's their responsibility, and they also know they may need a support network. You know,
Mhm.
Hospitals don't just do what parents say. And indeed, you can't really enter the doctor's treatment, office with your child anymore after they're
Right.
16 or
That's
so,
correct.
unless they,
Yep.
sign some HIPAA forms. Doctors are
Mhm.
very protective of patients, and even banks. I will tell you, I had an experience. I was 21 and I didn't have power of attorney documents or anything. I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't even think about it. And I went to France for a year, almost a year, to study over there. And when I did not, when I had first gone over there, my bank would freeze my accounts because there were all these foreign charges coming.
Oh, right,
coming.
right.
I was
Okay.
paying my I was paying my landlady. I was buying groceries at the grocery store. I was living my life, and I wasn't thinking about it. But they would freeze my accounts, and my landlady comes to me the second month I was there, and she said, like, "I couldn't get my rent money." "What's up with that?" In French, of course. And I had to call the bank and say, "You need to unfreeze my accounts. This is ridiculous. I'm making all these international calls." And it took days to sort it out, and it kept happening. It
Mm.
happened several times. If I had had a power of attorney, like for instance, my mother, to help me and to, you know, run interference for me and be my agent and tell the bank that everything was really fine, I would
Mhm.
not have had that problem.
Mm.
Mm.
And most young people, they're not in foreign countries these days, but they are in college. And there could be some, fraud issues on their account. You never know what could happen. And they would need a backup, someone to help them out.
Wow.
So I would submit you should start young. And especially once you get married, and even more importantly, once you have children. What would happen to your children if you never came home from going out to dinner with your spouse?
Wow. My. You
That
know,
is something that people should not have to worry about.
right, right. I don't
Mm.
think we never really think about that.
Nope.
Mhm.
As crazy, for lack of a better word, as crazy as times are right now, um, we have to be extra careful with our whereabouts, with our communication, with people that we know. I'm a crime drama watcher, so,
Hmm.
which probably isn't the best thing for anybody to do, but it does make me aware. It does make me aware that because I'm always big on, and I was with my kids, when you leave, be in a mindset that what would I need to know if you
Hmm.
didn't come back?
Hmm.
If you didn't come back home, what would I need to know? And you don't want to think that way. You don't want to think that things would happen to you or anything like that. But it is a reality. Who knows where your things are?
Hmm.
Who knows where your life insurance is? Who knows where your wills are, and those kinds of things. And I think those are discussions that uh, perhaps an estate planner can help you sort out.
Absolutely. That's part of our job. I like to say we help people organize their lives. And when I start working with people, one of the things I tell you is we are preparing for you to live your most abundant life. Because moving on from here, it will, it can, we're preparing for you to move forward. And in order to do that, we have to know where you're at. Because I get people who say, well, I don't have enough to make an estate plan. I don't really have anything. And I said, if you own clothes and furniture and a car, or maybe not a car, or an interest in a home, clothes and furniture, you have clothes and furniture, you have enough. And you have a life, more importantly, something so precious and beautiful that you can plan for and get help to manage when you're not able to manage it. We're not always going to be in control. And
Right,
so, one of the things I have my clients do at the very beginning is fill out a planning worksheet, and it helps you figure out who's important to you, what your important values and beliefs are. It gets you organized, right? Important to you, values and beliefs are, and a general description of what you own. And I take you through all kinds of property imaginable. And we go through, and some people have come to me and said, I didn't realize I owned all this until we went through this.
hmm
Um, and then by degrees, if necessary, we get more and more complicated, like I ask for bank statements and the occasional tax return and, those things.
hmm
But, just organizing your life when we start out is so helpful. And I go through and help you find, who are your beneficiaries on your life insurance. Some people don't even know. And so we have to go through and find out all that information. And so not only will estate planning help you organize for disaster and worst case scenario, but with many attorneys, you'll come out of it having gathered all of your important bank documents and insurance records and retirement account statements and things, and you will know more about your life than you did before, and it will all be in one place.
Aaron, this is really, really good information because I think that a lot of people um, have shied away from estate planning just because of the word estate.
Hmm.
Really, because they think I don't have that much, just like you were
Hmm.
saying with the other individual. I don't have that much. So, I don't have a lot of homes. I don't have cars and horses and boats and, all those
Hmm.
things. So I have nothing to bring to the table. But what you are explaining to us tonight to help us understand is that whatever you have that is a part of your daily living is a part of that big umbrella word estate,
Hmm.
and it is necessary. And I think the other thing that is so important that you mentioned is changing that mindset from death to life,
Hmm.
and understanding this is a plan for your here and now, as well as a plan that will reduce, if not eliminate, stress for your family when you're gone, when something happens to you.
You hit the nail on the head, Andrea, because eliminating stress for your family is really um, what it's going to be about in the end.
Mm-hmm.
When we go through the process, initially it's a little stressful, because you're getting yourself organized. And I have had so many clients say, "Well, I'm so relieved this is done. I feel so much better now. I feel so organized. I know what's going to happen, you know, to me, and I know, and my family will know." This is
Mm-hmm.
the thing, because families, they don't know, and they don't know what you would want if you have it all stuck in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So get it down on paper. And then there's another catch too, because just any paper isn't going to work. There are legal requirements, and those requirements are there for a reason. They're there to actually to protect you. Because if somebody brought a handwritten piece of paper um, to the clerk of court or probate rather, to report a death, and the clerk of probate said, "This doesn't look like a valid will," they're not out to get you. They're not out to get your family. They're actually there to protect you personally from fraud on your
Mm-hmm.
estate after your death. That's what all these requirements are there for, and why the documents have to be done in a certain way. Because actually, the law isn't out to get you, it's actually there to protect you. If you
Mm-hmm.
know that you need to have these things done in a certain way, and that it's there to protect you, to make sure your intentions are abided by, then you're going to be more likely to go through with it, because, oh, well, this isn't just there to make my life hard. It's
Mm-hmm.
there because when something happens to me, my family will have less trouble getting my desires out into the world and letting people know about them if all the documents are created correctly according to
Mm-hmm.
the way the law wants them, so that the law will know there was no fraud and that this really was what I intended.
That's so good too, because, and not to, say that, families are interesting. And yeah, that's the only word I can use in these situations. It says it's, when there are weddings and when there are funerals,
Mm,
it brings out the best and the worst in the family. And so many times I have watched where um, your loved one has written their wishes, but they have not done it legally. They haven't done it through the binding documents.
hmm
So when things come up, family members think that it's their responsibility to say what Aunt Maud wanted.
hmm
I
hmm
she talked to me, and I know that she would want this to happen, or I know she would want that to happen, and that just creates so much friction.
It does, and it can delay the process your of distributing your estate, because people have the right, they can go to court and said mom would have wanted it, and then the clerk of the judge says, "Okay, show me the evidence," and then all of your dirty laundry gets taken out into the public, because
Mm,
we may not be aware of it, but wills and those kinds of documents are public record when you die. And it's not because the law wants to know about everything about you, it's because, again, the law wants to protect you. Not that you're alive, but it wants to protect your memory as much as possible by trying to ensure that your intentions are abided by. And if there's no will, or if the will is invalid, then the law has a backup plan. And it's not very good. We call it intestacy in most states, and it's basically whoever is closely related to you by bloodline gets some of what you own or had during your lifetime. And it's based on the laws of merry old England as they existed, before we colonized, came over and colonized, those of us who did, who had ancestors who did. And so it's outdated. And so wills were an attempt to circumvent that, because even back then in merry old England, they knew that that system was not really very good.
mhm,
But it is the backup when your wills fail, or if you don't have one. And it takes the court ages to get everything distributed according to those rules. And if someone brings a court action, which people have the right to do, then of course things are stalled out until the judge hears that and considers all the evidence. And the judge might not make the decision you would want. The judge only has evidence to go on that is presented to him or her. They don't know the whole story either. So your best bet to get your wishes out there and to avoid any of that conflict is to get your will created. Even though your will is public, if you have it created and it's a valid will and you've done it and you've had an attorney help you, just to ensure that it's done right. I can't tell you how many wills on LegalZoom I have seen that were not correct.
Mm-hmm.
And LegalZoom doesn't really care if it's correct or not. It doesn't check up on you to make sure you've gotten it signed and notarized in the right places, etc., and witnessed by people who were appropriate witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so when those things are done and they're done correctly, you don't have that people looking into your life and into your privacy, and you have everything set out, and that is just beautiful. And no plan is perfect, but we do the best we can, and attorneys will help you think of things that you didn't think of when you're planning, because that's our job.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, Bernice Clark. Hey, Bernice, glad to have you on the line tonight. She said, would a handwritten document be legally binding if it's been notarized?
It depends on what state you're in.
Oh,
I can't speak for every state. I can say in North Carolina, the answer would be no. There are certain requirements for a handwritten will, and just having it notarized is not enough. And other states, they're called holographic wills, oddly enough. It has nothing to do with holograms as we would think of Star Trek. Other states have their own laws around that. Now, it is effective to, usually most states, I think, handwritten documents are effective to distribute personal property. Like I have this memorandum, not me personally, but you could basically have a list and say, I want Joan to get my China tea set, and I want Valerie to get my, I don't know, guest bedroom suit, whatever.
mm-hmm.
And that would be, they would be valid as far as they went, but they could always be contested. So your best bet is always to have a valid will drawn up and properly witnessed and notarized according to the laws of your state. And then you will know that you are as protected as you're going to be. And most wills will have provisions in them that protect inheritances. So if someone contests an inheritance, and for in other words, they're in the will, and they say, well, I should have gotten more than Aunt Olivia said I was only going to get 1/2, and I should have gotten 3/4. If they take that to court and contest it, they could lose everything. That's how sacred the law holds your intentions as you set them out in the will.
Wow. Francina, did you have another question for Aaron? I tell you what, we're just soaking all of this.
This is just so good, so good. I do remember when my mother passed away, because she wanted me to come to her bank so I could do fingerprint.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, she had her will in the bank.
Oh no!
So I had to go to court.
Yes.
To get documents for the bank to let me get in there to get
Mm-hmm.
her will to then distribute.
Mm-hmm.
For me, what I've done is, and I've talked to my 2 children, but I also have a binder
Mm-hmm.
that I have everything in the binder of where everything is,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can find it, and I have my insurance policies, everything there, so they
Yes.
know where it's at. My question to you is, my daughter, unfortunately, doesn't have anything
Mm-hmm.
drawn up, whatever. God forbid if something was to happen to her, would I be able to make decisions for her because I'm her mother?
No,
Who would be able to do that?
no one.
Hmm?
So I'll elaborate. If your daughter is hale and hearty and nothing is wrong, then she's making decisions for herself and everything's fine. If something happens to her, any there are two issues. There are decisions about her health and there are decisions about her things that she owns, her property. If things are owned jointly with someone else in terms of property, then that other person is making decisions about it. That's okay. If she has separate property that she is the only person authorized to make decisions about it, then no one's going to make any decisions and it's just going to languish there. If she needs to have decisions made about her health care because she can't make the decision, then this is what usually happens. A hospital talks to families and says, "What do you want to do?" The families make a decision or not. If they make a decision, then the hospital is usually abiding by that decision. There are hospital policies about life sustaining treatment that families may not be able to interfere with because usually what happens in families with those kinds of decisions is there are disputes about it.
Mhm.
So if there's a dispute about any kind of healthcare decision or even a financial decision, and she is still alive but can't make the decision, then the court has to get involved and appoint a guardian for her. That is not easy. It is hard on the family and it takes a while. And as we know from the Terry Schiavo case from the 1990s, somebody could linger on life support for 13 years while it goes through the court system. That's
Mhm.
just the reality. And it's a very, very harsh reality. And nobody wants that for their family. I mean, in the Terry Schiavo case, it ate up the money of everyone in that family, those court cases. It ate up their money. It ate up them emotionally. Her husband and her parents hated each other by the time she died. I mean, they were literally bitterest of enemies. And none of that had to happen and this is not judgment, this is just if she had gotten those documents in order and understood the importance of them, none of that would have happened. And her thing, she's young, she doesn't know anything about it, she's not educated about them, but that's what I'm here to do, and attorneys are here to do, is to educate people that regardless of how old you are, once you're an adult, all of these things are important. It's important to get these decisions down on paper, so to speak, and take responsibility for your life by gathering your support network around you and letting them know that they're going to be your backup if something happens to you. Because we are
Mhm.
not all of us in control all the time.
That's right.
It's just
Wow.
it's not happening.
Wow. Aaron, this has been, I tell you what, eye opening is an understatement. This has really been some good information. I certainly do appreciate you being a part of When Life Speaks tonight and sharing this with us. How can people get in touch with you? I know you are the law office of Aaron Baker Edgar, the law
Yes,
office of Aaron Baker Edgar. But
certainly.
is there a website
Hmm.
or something like that? Can you tell us what that is?
Absolutely. So my website is aaronedgarlegal.com. Edgar is like Edgar Allan Poe, and Aaron is with an E. So aaronedgarlegal.com.
Mhm.
Or you can email me at aaron@aaronedgarlegal.com. And
Okay.
if you are in North Carolina and you email me or contact me through my website, I would be happy to provide you with a free consultation and we can discuss what you might need if you would like more information, or if it's not something I can help you with, I can point you in the right direction.
Thank you so much, so much. So you hear that, guys, you hear that, listeners. We've given you some good information. We've given you an excellent resource, and I hope that you will take advantage of it. Aaron, is there any final comment that you would like to make to keep us on the right track?
Yes, this is a quotation that I learned when I was a freshman in college, and it has stuck with me for the past, I won't say how many years, 24. No, more than that. Anyway, 28 years. Um, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That is from the Tao Te Ching. That is a Chinese proverb, basically. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It only takes that one step. It only takes that one call. It only takes, even before the one call to the attorney, it takes that decision to start and be willing to engage in the process and to understand why you're doing it. Understanding that why is that one small step to the decision to plan for your life and your future and the future of those you love. And I encourage everyone to make that one small step.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Erin, thank you so much for being with us here at When Life Speaks. Thank you, Francina, for bringing the senior sidebar in.
This was awesome. This
Thank
was
you.
awesome.
I'm very
Yeah.
grateful to have had the opportunity to be here today.
Well, I am so glad you could, and I look forward to, who knows, there may be another opportunity and another open door for you to come back, and we would always love to have you. And again, thank you so much for taking time from your schedule to share with us. And listeners, look, you know you've got some information now, you've got some contact now, you have some resources now. So don't be caught. Don't be caught in a situation where you have not planned properly. And look, if you did not have, if there's someone that you know that needs this information that was not able to be on the program tonight, we'd have a replay on Saturdays at noon. So have them come on Saturdays at noon, or you come on with them, and just share the information and almost had sneeze. Share the information, and you can discuss some of these things and talk about them and be on a good path. So thank you again for being with us. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, Francina. Thank you, Erin. We will be right back here next week at 7 p.m. I don't know who we have on next week, so just show up. It'll be good. I guarantee you. And turn down the volume of life for just a little bit and be ready to receive, so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you. My pleasure.